And I would like to hand over to my colleague Nadine Pilon from Eurocontrol. And this is what we'll focus on in our next session, our Modus use cases, our scenarios, and our city archetypes that we're using for our modeling. And for each of these, we will have a presentation by one of the consortium members. And after each presentation, we'll move to a whiteboard where we would like to collect your feedback in terms of post-its. And you can say what is good, what is maybe bad or not so good, and what is missing entirely, or other questions that you have that you can write down here. And with that, Nadine Pilon from Eurocontrol, the floor is yours. Very happy to hear the next presentation. Thank you.
Very much, Annika. So hello, everybody. As Annika said, just after I have given my lead presentation, try to make it short, you will have the opportunity to put some post-its and opinion on what is good, what is bad, what is missing in the work, and this, in particular, the scenarios that I'm presenting. So just take notes. You'll have a link later. So she will explain. So the Modus scenarios are actually have been derived from the high-level mobility objective in Europe, also from existing studies and the work that we've done, the research that we've done in Modus. I'd like to mention the strategic research agenda. So, for example, what Alessandro presented earlier, and also the European mobility goals. So basically, these goals are of four nature. One of these drivers is the need for connectivity. So the objective to reduce travel time for the passengers, and also to improve the connection to the remote regions. The second objective, this is at the European Commission level, the second objective is to reduce the environmental impact, and with a strong driver towards the reduction of our dependency on fossil fuels in order to reduce the CO2 emissions. And the internalization of external costs is seen as a strong incentive for all the partners to go towards this objective. Then in Europe, we have also the third objective, which is, of course, to be able to cope with an increasing demand as much as possible. So be able to respond with the right infrastructure, the right supply, by extending the existing capacities where there is a need, and also improving the resource allocation. So the fourth objective is the innovation. So technological innovation, and also its deployment, its timely and very quick deployment are really key also for improvement of our transport system. So in particular, with the development of more fuel efficient vehicles, hydrogen powered, hybrid electric vehicles, but also through an important fleet renewal, in order to make sure that the zero emission technology can be deployed before 2040 in our case. Next slide, please. And so from this high level objective, we've derived the four scenarios that I'm going to present on the next slide. The time horizon for our work is 2040. So we've deliberately decided to not ignore, but not focus on the pandemic situation where we are now, and try to position us after certain deadlines that are set on the European scale about certain improvements in roadmaps, etc. So 2040 look something before 2050, but after 2030, 35. And so we wanted not to be sort of policy making, but more having a research to try to find what could be the drivers and the direction in which the transport system would change. Can you go to next slide, please? Yes. Very quickly, so the 4 scenarios, and I will maybe go direct. So just 1 second. We have one which is our baseline, scenario 1, which is the assumption that we return to the pre-pandemic situation. It will be the baseline for the 3 other scenarios that are describing different futures. We are conscious that these futures can coexist in certain places. One which is the shift to short haul, shift between air to rail for short haul traffic travel. The scenario 3 is assuming a very strong growth, more than in the pre-pandemic situation, with a strong technological uptake. And the 4th one is picturing a future where the mobility will have changed because people will be more dispersed across the countries and based on virtual working and virtual meetings, more decentralized transport system. Can you move to the next slide, please? Okay, so the pre-pandemic scenario, so we are assuming here that the transport system is returning to the baseline. As Carlos said, it's maybe not for tomorrow, we don't know, but this is our baseline at least, so we start from there. So the reduction, so still in this scenario, there is innovation technologies, and there is reduction of the emissions for both transport systems. Can you move to the next one? Yeah, the first diverging scenario, scenario 2, is about short haul shift. So in this scenario, there is a high share of our short haul air traffic which would move to the rail traffic through cooperation between rail and air. And this constitutes therefore a reduced short haul air traffic overall in Europe. And this is assuming that on the rail side, there is a very high quality transport network with high speed rail services. And also that aviation still continues to be cleaner as well, especially on the long haul routes. The assumption that we have from policy making is that by 2030, the high-speed rail traffic will double, essentially for other major links, inter and extra EU. And that there would be, again, a policy pressure for collective travel, for scheduled travel to under 500 kilometers to be carbon neutral. And therefore, this will make rail transport more relevant and significantly increase the demand for the rail sector. And there would be more cooperation between air and rail, of course, for the long short haul travelers. Yes, second, next slide. So in this scenario, there is a growth, there is a very strong technological support that is allowing for high growth rates while still respecting the needs. So we have, for this scenario, used the market forecast from Boeing for until 2040. And so in this market forecast, the technological innovation are both addressing reduced emissions of CO2 and the capacity shortage reduction. And so this is also dependent on a very high uptake, large deployment of this innovative technology in the air transport sectors. So more than what is currently agreed under Destination 2050, Flight Price 2050, the EU's part and the Sustainable Mobility Strategy, for example. a very positive scenario. The fourth scenario, next slide, yeah, is on the other, a very different direction. So it is assuming that the current trend of moving to big urban centers would be sort of changing direction, and that people would now try to go away from the big metropoles and disperse themselves in the rural and remote regions because of the important facilities to remote working, to do virtual meetings that make unnecessary trips redundant in a way. And also because based on the smart and sustainable mobility strategy, remote regions and rural regions would be better served, better connected to all European regions. And so this would give an increasing role to small and regional airports, also an increasing role to regional aviation and the possibility for it to bring in quickly some very good technological innovations towards electric power, for example. It's also including additional railway stations and higher quality as well for the decentralized transport network as a whole. So these are the four scenarios. I think I'm on time. So maybe Annika, if you want now to introduce the next